was at an earlier stage in my development as a socialist, I assumed that when the revolution against the capitalist state came to the United States, we could simply replace the existing state in the United States with a new proletarian-run state that encompasses the whole territory. But after listening to colonized peoples, I've understood that it's not. It shouldn't quite be this simple. The reality is that as white settlers, me and other white settlers are living on stolen indigenous territories, and if we were to create a new state, even if it's socialist, on top of these stolen territories, and act like the original indigenous borders don't matter, we would, in a sense, be committing a new version of the injustice that the capitalist colonizers committed against the indigenous peoples of these lands. So no, creating a one monolithic proletarian-run state should not be the solution in the territory now called the United States. After the regime in Washington is overthrown, we'll need to divide jurisdiction over these lands to the indigenous First Nations. We'll need to return this continent over to the indigenous peoples and make the indigenous First Nations hold the sovereignty that they held before the colonization process began. And I realize that by using that word we, I'm kind of overstepping. Really, it shouldn't be my decision what happens. The decision should be put in the hands of the colonized peoples of this land. And one of the reasons why I've come to this conclusion is because the colonization of the indigenous peoples in this territory is an equivalent to the colonization of the Palestinians. I mean, what's happening in Palestine, or in the territory now fraudulently called Israel, is a newer version of the colonization process that's been happening on this continent for hundreds of years. And just because it's been happening longer doesn't mean that the oppression of the colonized peoples in this territory is not nearly as severe as the oppression of the Palestinians. Like the Palestinians, the colonized peoples of this territory are continue to experience genocide and a severe marginalization and severe persecution. I mean, Native people in the United States are the demographic that's most likely to be killed by police, even more so than black people. They're one of the most impoverished, statistically, one of the most impoverished demographics in this country, and they're even being effectively put in concentration camps. These are indigenous migrants from the southern lands that Trump is putting in these inhumane detention camps, and they were driven out of their lands by American destabilization. There are even American citizens who are brown, who are being put in these detention facilities. It's horrifying, and it should compel all people who identify as socialists to get on board with the idea of decolonization in the territory currently called the United States of America. If we can all agree that, if we can seemingly all agree in this movement that the statement "from the river to the sea, Palestine should be free" is a commendable statement. We should also all come to agree with the statement that the indigenous First Nations that were colonized by the United States should get their sovereignty back. We should all come to agree that decolonization needs to happen.